Hey guys, it's Ashley. So today I'm going to go over creating renders with the high resolution screen capture tool in Rhino. This tool is really useful because it allows you to create renders with a lot of pixels that only take maybe 3 seconds to output. It's also useful for creating many views quickly. So I'm going to show you how to set up your model so that it's colored how mine is on the left, and so that there's no line work, so it looks a little bit more like a render. I'm going to go through the process from start to finish, and then hopefully you'll end up with something like I have on the left when you're finished. Okay, so I'll move over to the file where the colors aren't set yet. So you just have my model here in a normal shaded view. I'm going to click into the top screen to maximize it. I'm going to type document properties. Make sure that I'm in rendered view first. I'm going to type document properties and go ahead and change some of the viewport settings. So go to view, display modes, and then since I set it to rendered view, I'm going to make sure that I'm clicking on rendered view here, and I'm going to copy it. I want to copy and not make a new file. So if you see I have copy of rendered 01 down here, that's going to be the new viewport that I'm working with. So before I start editing, I'm going to close out of the document properties. I'm going to go and set my view and make sure that I'm in copy of rendered 01. So it's not going to look like anything yet, but we're going to be starting with the rendered settings and then start changing some of them. So type document properties again. And then we're going to go to copy of rendered 01. Scroll all the way down if you don't see this. So I'm going to just start changing these in order, starting with background. Go to solid color, change the background to be white or whatever color you want. And then I don't want the lines to show for this. So I'm going to go ahead and unclick all of these visibilities to turn off any lines and curves that might show in the viewport. The lines will still be in your file, they just won't show in this view. So if you change it, your view setting will show up again. And then for the overall lighting scheme, I'm going to change it from black to a little bit lighter just by sliding up. As you see, this is going to just make the whole scene lighter. If you don't see any of these menus, just click and these other options will appear. So there's a lot of options for changing individual object appearance, but to keep this quick, I'm not going to go through any of those. If you just go down to shadows, that's going to be something that's good to know, so you can control the shadows. Check, if you don't see your shadows, try sliding the camera-based clipping bubble, which is going to change your shadows based on how close your camera is to the object you're trying to render. So if you see, I've just nudged mine a little bit and my shadows stop showing. And if I move it a little bit more, the shadows come back. So I'm going to leave it there and then show you how to adjust some of the other useful tools. I'm going to make my shadows a little bit sharper, maybe make them show up a little softer. As you can see, it's kind of updating automatically. And then maybe just blur the edge since there's some sort of harsh edges in there that aren't showing up very well. I can also change the color by just clicking on shadow color, so that's nice sometimes. But actually to make the image that you've seen, I don't have shadows on, so for now I'm just going to turn mine off. This will typically be something you might want to mess with, so just click OK. So now you can see my viewport set up, but I need to start changing the colors. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go into my layers panel and I'm going to go to materials. So it's the fourth over. You have your name, visibility settings, the lock, color, and then material. Sorry, the fifth over. So right now you can't really see them, but there's little white circles in there, which is going to change the color of the material. So since I already have all my objects sorted onto layers, I'm just going to assign by layer, and it's going to automatically apply that color to the layer. What's nice is I can use an eyedropper tool here, so if I have a color palette or another image, I can just pull that up on the side. So I'm going to pull up my previous image that I've made and just use this as a color palette. Just go over to your layers, start clicking on the material, Then you can change the color using the eyedropper right here. You can eyedropper anywhere that's on the screen. If you don't see a default material, just scroll here and change it to be default material. Then these options will show up. I'm going to click color, eyedropper, just eyedropper over outside the Rhino window, and then click OK. So I'm just going to go through quickly and assign all of the colors. So this layer I want to be glass, so I'm just going to eyedropper the color of glass I want. And then I'm going to go and make this a custom material. If I just scroll down, make it a custom material, I can change the other settings. I'm just going to set my transparency to about 50, click OK. And then you can see that it looks kind of how I want it to. You see that the color doesn't update until you press OK, unlike the viewport settings. I also just want to point out that these aren't lines showing on my model. I've modeled these. There were lines under them, and then I used the pipe command to model these. So if you followed my directions, there shouldn't be any lines showing up in your drawing. I'm going to go ahead and assign these lines to colors because they're a part of the project. So as you can see, everything in my model is pretty much filled with color now, and I'm ready to start getting this ready to render. So rather than actually render this in V-Ray or in Rhino Render, I'm going to use a high-resolution screenshot to render this. The thing that's nice about the high-resolution screenshot is that you can get an image that has a lot of pixels, say 20,000 by 20,000, and it takes only a couple of seconds. You can also get a lot of different views quickly if you just set up the colors on your model. So as you see here, I've switched back to shaded mode. I'm going to show you how to change this into a plan or into an oblique drawing. Go over to right view after you've selected everything, and you're going to type in shear. And then click from the bottom to the top and make sure you have ortho on. And I'm going to type in the shear angle, which I'm going to use -45 because I want this to be an oblique drawing at 45 degrees. You can test out some other angles if you don't like how your model looks. So if you see now, I'm going to switch over to the top view. So I don't want to use my 3D view anymore. I want to use a top view. And what's nice about this is that all of my plan information is going to be true to scale. And then it's going to have some 3D information showing with the oblique. Since I've already set up my viewport, I can just go and change it to my copy of rendered 01. You just want to make sure you have this off when you shear because sometimes the rendered views can slow down your computer. So if you see, my colors are looking a little washed out compared to the image that I made originally. So I can go to document properties and kind of just change the saturation of all the images at once, of all the colors at once. So if you just go to your copy of rendered view, scroll down to lighting scheme, and then just change that lighting to be a little bit darker. Then you can see it's just updated automatically, and now my ground plane, which wasn't showing up, is going to appear again. So if I'm happy with this viewport, I can go to the top and click to display modes on the left, go over, click my viewport, and then save it as a .ini file. If I want to import this onto a different computer, I can just import that .ini file. It will save after you close Rhino, but if you want to switch machines, you might want to save your file. So to make this in the vertical aspect ratio, I'm going to actually use my Rhino screens and drag them so I can kind of frame it. If you just press Control and hold down the right click, you can also zoom in and out slowly. Now that I'm happy with that viewport, I'm gonna need to change the width and height for my view capture. So I want to make sure that the width and height matches the aspect ratio that I have framed right here. So to do that, I'm going to just press Escape, make sure nothing's selected, go over to Properties, make sure I have my top view selected. And then I'm going to look at the width and height to see how big my viewport is. If you see right there, it's 500 by 700 about. So I want to do a multiple of that. So when I type dash view capture to file, I want to change the width to be 10,000 since it's a multiple of the width. And then I'm going to change the height to be 14,000, a multiple of the height. And then I'm going to also change the transparent background to yes, just in case I want to work with this in Photoshop later and I don't want that white background. And then just click Browse to choose a location on your desktop to save it. To make sure that my background's transparent, just make sure to save as a PNG. If your transparent image is showing up black, it means you just need to save it as a PNG. Otherwise, it'll save the JPEG in black. So as you see, I've done a pretty high resolution image. My computer's not so fast, and it only took a couple of seconds until that file's done. So if I go look for it, I have a 10,000. And then it just opens very quickly. And the background's transparent. If you zoom in, you can see that the resolution's pretty good, and it's not too pixelated until you get super close. So now you can go ahead and take this into Photoshop or test out some other views. And that's all we have today. So thank you for watching.